Hey, good morning. Wendy here at Morningside Nature Center. I also have Danny and Justin with me today, and it's fall now, and you know what that means is wildflower time. So what we're doing now is we're gearing up to do some virtual wildflowers with you guys. Normally we'd be getting ready for some in-person walks, but as you know, we can't do that right now. But we got some really awesome wildflowers that are popping now, and we'd love to have y'all come out and take some self-guided walks, and we'll have some materials ready for you to assist you. But we're open 7 days a week here at Morningside from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we'd love to have you out here on the trails looking at some wildflowers with us. So let's go ahead and look at our first wildflower over here. So this wildflower has long, kind of spiky leaves here, and the stem is kind of real tall, and it goes up into an umbel up here that is really attractive to our native bees and our native pollinators. And so this is in the Apiaceae family, and the scientific name is Eryngium eucifolium. And so these leaves actually have these little spines on them that kind of remind you of some yucca. So that's how you could try to remember that. And the common name for this is rattlesnake master. And like I said, it's a favorite amongst some pollinators. And right now it actually has probably a little egg casing. Not sure what it exactly is for, but it's a little critter in there, and it might be a parasitic wasp. So this is a home for somebody, and it's also a food source.
All right, so we have our next wildflower here is Carphephorus corymbosus, which is the Florida paintbrush. This is in the Asteraceae family. So Asteraceae have a combination sometimes of disc and ray flowers, or sometimes just disc flowers. This one only has disc flowers in the middle, and right here we can see it's a good plant for pollinators. That looks like a longhorn beetle up there. And if you look on the stem, we can see there's little bits of hairs there. That's one of those adaptations in sandhill to help hold in some moisture. It's got alternate leaf arrangement, and another adaptation for sandhill is this basal rosette here. So keeps the leaves close to the ground, helps keep them away from predators, hold in a little bit more moisture. And I like to think about this one when I think about Florida paintbrush. When you look out, when they're all in bloom, it really paints the landscape a beautiful kind of pink color there. So this is one of my favorites.
All right, so behind me is an area of the park that actually recently burned. So just a few months ago in late June, park staff conducted a prescribed burn in this area. As you can see, it doesn't really look burned anymore. You might see a few burn scars in some of the trees, but obviously the plants have come back, and they have come back very beautifully and robustly. That's because prescribed fire is an important and natural part of these ecosystems. It would have naturally come through every 3 to 4 to 5 years, usually due to lightning strikes. And so here at the park, we kind of mimic that natural cycle of fire. And most of the plants and animals, they've adapted to having fire. And so it's actually a really good thing for the natural community here. And as you can see, we have many wildflowers that are starting to bloom from it. Right here we have, if you look, you can see lots of white flowers. And I'm gonna look at that right here. And so these, they kind of have a narrow stalk and kind of these little fine hairs on them that run all the way up. The leaves are kind of lance shaped, and they have these little jagged teeth. And these are kind of neat and interesting because the leaves start out opposite at the bottom, but as they go up, they start to move to alternate. And so you can see these leaves right here are alternate at the top. And so it kind of changes. And as we get to the top, we see these nice little white flowers. This is called Eupatorium mori. We see lots and lots of butterflies on them. Right now, a bunch of them are covered in love bugs. We see bees. It's a really important pollinator. And as you can see, it's really happy after having fire. And if we swing over here, and we have another flower that's pretty common that we see around here. It's got these nice, beautiful yellow flowers, both ray and disc flowers at the top. And it's kind of got these slender leaves that kind of hug the stalk that come all the way up. And it kind of has like a silvery hue to it. This is called silkgrass, Pityopsis graminifolia. Although it's actually not a grass, it is a perennial herb. But you know, when it's not blooming, it kind of looks like a grass. So this is just starting to bloom throughout the park. And so again, we have little tiny bugs on the flowers. So an important resource for our insects. And then if we swing right here, we don't have to go very far. We have another beautiful flower that's just starting to bloom. And this has these really thin leaves that hug this long, narrow stalk. As we get to the closer to the top, we're starting to see some beautiful blooms. And this is Liatris tenuifolia, and it actually usually starts to bloom from the top, and the blooms start to move down. So we're right at the beginning of October now, and they're just starting to bloom. So throughout the month, these should really start to pop and really show across the landscape.
All right, next up is this one right here. It's in the Lamiaceae family, which is the mint family. This is called Calicarpa americana, or beautyberry, and you can see there's a lot of it growing all around here. Distinguishing characteristics for this one are it's got kind of fuzzy leaves, and like most plants in the mint family, they're oppositely arranged here. Interesting fact about this one is it's the only plant in the mint family that gets berries on it. So these flowers right here, here's the beautiful flowers of it. As they become pollinated, they're going to start giving away to these bunches of berries. And if you've noticed beautyberry before, you probably haven't seen the flowers, but you will notice those bright purple berries that it gets. So those are edible to humans as well as animals. This is a great plant for pollinators. We've seen some butterflies on here flying around in this area a lot. And one of the only things to remember if you're looking at it for identification, even though it's a mint plant here, this one does not have a square stem. So that's an interesting fact about it as well. And if you take a leaf and crush it, you can see it's very aromatic. You can try smelling these, and it's got a distinctive smell to it. So between all those characteristics, this is how I recognize beautyberry.
So here we have our next wildflower, and this actually looks very similar to one of the earlier ones we saw, the rattlesnake master. This is actually closely related to that. This is in the Apiaceae family as well. It is a low grower. It starts out with a basal rosette, and it grows in that stage for a while, and then it'll send out these little runners here that have these really interesting looking kind of sharp little leaves all the way up the stem here, and then it comes out to this kind of cornflower blue flower, spiny little flower. And this is a big attractor for different native bees and other pollinators. And this is actually a host, a larval host plant for the eastern black swallowtail butterfly. And actually a friend of mine was just telling me about how he has seen that same caterpillar on his parsley at home, and that's actually in the same family. It's the Apiaceae family. So yeah, this is just a beautiful flower that it just is all over the place in this area. It likes well-drained sandy soils, and that's what we have here in this sandhill ecosystem.
All right, we have another awesome wildflower right here. This one is in the Asteraceae family as well, and it's another Liatris. But this is a little bit more rare out here in the park. This is a Liatris passiflora. And I found this one really interesting because all the flower buds are usually on one side of the stem here, and they're facing up, and it can be easy to confuse this with the Liatris tenuifolia. It's got the same kind of short leaves right up on the stalk here, but the really easy way to tell the difference is these buds are at least a couple times bigger than the other two Liatris that we have out here. So Liatris passiflora is a little bit of an early bloomer. This will be around for the beginning of October, and it's a really cool one, pretty rare. Again, very good for pollinators out here. It's got the same kind of sandhill adaptations with the leaves right up along the stem there. And yeah, you'll be able to notice it by that sideways all the flowers on the side, and the blossoms are a lot bigger than the other two liatris. So this is Liatris passiflora.
All right, we are here at the end of our walk. This is the last flower we're looking at on our trail, and it is, as you can see, a very showy one. As we look down here, we have lots of these yellow flowers here, and if you look, they have these narrow, kind of skinny leaves that, as the plant grows, they kind of die off. And so we got dead leaves up here, and here we got these really, really little narrow leaves leading up to our flower. And we got this beautiful yellow head with both ray and disc flowers. And as the ray flowers fall off, you kind of are left with this. And so this, one of the common names is yellow button, because it kind of looks like a yellow button when the flowers fall off. And the other common name is honeycomb head, because if you look at it, it kind of looks like a honeycomb. But anyway, this is Balduina angustifolia. This is a biennial flower, so it takes 2 years for it to fully go through its life cycle.
Us today, and these are just a few of the spectacular wildflowers that Morningside has to offer. If you get a chance to come on out, it's much better in person. And if you'd like to purchase a guide, these are just a couple of guides, and they're by Walter Kingsley Taylor. One of them, this one here, is kind of set up by color. So if you're out hiking and you find yellow flowers, you can turn to the yellow flower section. And then this one is neat because it's set up by the natural community. So if you're in the sandhill or in the flatwoods, you can look it up by community to find which flowers live there. And then this last one is Florida butterfly caterpillars and their host plants. So when you're out hiking around, if you want to know if any of those flowers are actual larval hosts plants, you can look it up in this book. And then also we have put together a wildflower guide for Morningside, and this includes pictures and maps and descriptions of some of the wildflowers you'll see along the way. So I encourage you to give us a call, and directions on how to get this guide will be included in the description of this video. And we look forward to having you out here and checking out some of the wildflowers. Remember, they don't run away, so you can come out, anytime, but they do stop flowering eventually. So come out and visit.